Tonight, high drama at Hyde Park as the city asks for your help to determine a car conundrum.
The park should be for people, not cars.
I do like driving through here at the safe speed as well.
A city open house asks the question, should there be more or fewer cars in one of Toronto's most iconic and busiest parks? And game on, who's officially in Toronto's race to become mayor? We'll take you to City Hall for a rundown of day one.
Absolutely astounded they've got a bar.
Plus, a CBC Toronto investigation uncovers a bar at the police headquarters and finds a high-ranking officer swiped in only hours before getting into a car crash. Good evening, I'm Chris Glover. More than 1 million people use Hyde Park every year, and sometimes it feels like there are 1 million opinions when it comes to how it should operate, especially when it comes to the future of cars in the park. Dale Manukduk is live at Hyde Park tonight, and a city open house just down the street just wrapped up, Dale. Lots of passion fueling the public consultation tonight.
Yeah, Chris, this park means so much to so many people. Let me break down what city staff looked at. They looked at 4 options: full road closures, time-based road closures, area-based road closures, and full road reopening. And after a year and a half of planning and engaging with over 10,000 Torontonians, area-based road closures came out on top. So what that means, for example, this southbound lane on Colburn Lodge, that would be gone. According to city staff, area-based road closures ticked the most boxes when it came to user safety, access and equity, the environment, mobility, and impacts to permits and programming, among other criteria. So city staff presented these recommendations to the community tonight, and it elicited some strong reaction.
To allow or not allow cars in Hyde Park, that's the question.
The best solution would be closing the park off altogether. The park should be for people, not cars.
So I think having a little bit less traffic would make it more accessible for everyone. I do also recognize the need for cars. I do like driving through here at the safe speed as well. So it's a give and take. You know, it really is a tough decision.
Made tougher given the million or so people who access the park every single year for a variety of reasons.
It could be dog walkers, they could be gardeners, they could be hockey players. Everyone needs to get to Hyde Park one way or another, and we're trying to make that as easy as possible while respecting the special qualities of Hyde Park.
Some of what city staff recommends is closing vehicle access on the west end of the park at all times. Center Road will become a one-way route for motor vehicles, and full road closures on Sunday would become year-round, eliminating car-free Saturdays. One of the key priorities for the city is to remove conflict points that have been raised between pedestrians, cyclists, and motorists. Some residents aren't in favor of the staff recommendations.
Come to the park itself and see what materializes every day with these cyclists. Here's the stop sign, here's the stop sign, here's the stop sign, and here's the stop sign. And not one of them stop.
It doesn't serve people who don't have access to cars and for whom cars form a barrier to access. People like me when I was injured and other people with mobility impairments. Cars are dangerous.
I can't walk. And the only way I have access to that beautiful space is my husband drives me through the park every day.
These are just recommendations. Residents were asked to provide feedback, which will be used to draft a final report presented to City Council at the end of the month. Gord Perks, who represents the ward, thinks this is a flashpoint decision for the city.
Something between 30 and 50,000 people a year move into the city of Toronto. We're not building new roads. The future of Toronto means we have to solve our mobility and access needs without relying on cars.
So, Chris, included in this plan is a new shuttle bus service that would give access to various parts of the park. So that's keeping in mind people with mobility devices, strollers, or large hockey equipment bags. So after council approves the final recommendations from staff, we could see improvements, immediate ones, to the park as soon as the summer. Chris?
These public consultations don't always draw such a big crowd, so interesting just in that. Dale, thanks for this report tonight. Whether to rely more or less on the car is also a debate that will no doubt be part of Toronto's mayoral by-election. The race officially getting underway today. As of tonight, 28 people have registered to run to replace John Tory. Municipal Affairs reporter Sean Jeffords has more on day one of Toronto's Mayor Mania.
A steady stream of candidates made their way to City Hall to enter the race for Toronto's top job. The mayoral by-election kicks off in earnest today as nominations open. armed with 25 signatures and ready to pay $200. A lot of candidates are ready to get in early.
How are you?
Former City Councillor Anna Byelection was amongst the first to sign on. She was flanked by a trio of city councillors who've already endorsed her.
You need somebody that has the experience inside City Hall, that has the relationships to work, to bring the plan that we're going to get through the election, to work with city councillors to make sure that we get the city moving.
Former Toronto Police Chief Mark Saunders says his 34 years of public service make him the ideal candidate to lead the city. He spoke about affordability and fiscal management moments after registering.
For every dollar that we're spending not being effective, we're taking that money off your table. Less food for your family, less opportunity.
But right now, Byelection and Saunders are on the outside of City Hall looking in. They'll have at least two challengers currently serving on council. Councillor Josh Matlow stressed that he'll be a consensus builder and not use the strong mayor powers. Matlow was a frequent critic of former Mayor John Tory and strongly opposes the controversial strong mayor powers that were awarded to him by the province.
I'm going to be strong by not just, because the legislation says that I'm a strong mayor, but because the ideas are strong, that they're grounded in evidence.
City Councillor Brad Bradford also jumped in the race. He says he won't back away from using the strong mayor powers, which would give him a budget veto.
This is about generational change, and this is about a strong mayor of action who is going to get things done for Torontonians. It's time for less talk and more action.
Okay. And Scarborough MPP Mitzi Hunter also joined the race, pitching her deep roots in the East End.
I'm a kid from Scarborough. I grew up in that part of our city, and I've been a champion of Scarborough, and I want to be a champion of Toronto.
So those candidates who registered to run today can immediately begin to raise and spend money on their campaigns. Now, this is important because this race is going to be a sprint, unlike most municipal elections, which are months longer. Sean Jeffords, CBC News, Toronto.
So even if it is a spring-summer by-election, the candidates are hoping to strike a nerve and catch attention with the issues that matter to them. But how about you? What issues are preoccupying your mind when it comes to the way the city is run? Talia Ricci taps into what voters value.
Because we just had an election in October, a lot of the issues that were important to people then continue to be now. And for many, the hope is that whoever does become Toronto's next mayor enacts real change.
Out and about today, what we found is that regardless of where people live, their backgrounds and their age, Torontonians share a lot of the same concerns.
The seniors struggling, right?
From seniors to students, people want to see our next mayor take a hard look at affordability.
You have to pay the rent, and we don't have enough money to buy groceries.
As students, it's hard to find good affordable housing that's not way out of the way from your schools.
People are living on the street more than ever before.
I'm lucky enough that I already own my house, but I fear for, I have a small child at home. I've got 2 more on the way, so the future generations, I don't know how they're going to afford to live in the city.
Living here doesn't get better money-wise. I don't see myself living here in the future.
We also heard from a lot of people who are hoping for safer and more reliable transit.
I waited for the streetcar for 30 minutes yesterday, I think.
And the prices are going up at the same time, and the wait times are going up too.
The station out there is taking a long time, and it's very congested with traffic.
Also, the violence on the TTC is a really important issue, and that's something that the new mayor should be looking at.
Our last municipal election saw the worst voter turnout in Toronto's history. Now, the people we spoke with today said they do plan to vote, and one expert says this election is a little different and could go either way.
This is the first election in a while where there's not an incumbent and also an incumbent that's popular. And that there's just focus on the mayoral election and it's very high profile. That could bring people out to the polls. And conversely, people might feel like they were just at the polls, which they were in just last year. And so maybe they decide to give this a pass.
By-elections also often draw even fewer voters, particularly in the summer months. Toronto will elect a new mayor on June 26th. Talia Ricci, CBC News, Toronto.
One issue that is sure to motivate a lot of voters is transit, and today fares went up 10 cents for most of us. Cash fares and one-way Presto tickets now cost $3.35 a pop.
We do not like fare increases. It's always a last resort for us. But with 30% drop in ridership due to people working from home largely, our revenue stream has been severely impacted.
The TTC says it's been able to maintain more than 90% of its service despite the drop in ridership. They project the fare increase will generate $16 million in extra revenue annually, which can help maintain service as well as other improvements like security and cleanliness initiatives. Mostly cloudy and 11 degrees as we look live this evening at Hyde Park. Let's get right to Colette Kennedy with a first look at our forecast. And Colette, wet conditions certainly continuing into the morning and beyond.
Thanks, Chris. Yeah, we've got some soggy conditions over the next few days. And then once we get past Wednesday, we're going to see dramatically different conditions. But what really the setup is has to do with the contrast you're seeing here with these temperatures. So some of the temperatures in northern Ontario stretching back towards Manitoba versus the very mild air we had in place today. All of that meets up along a cold front. And it's not so much over the next 24 hours, but as we get to Wednesday, that'll give us the risk of seeing some thunderstorms, potentially some severe weather there. Active weather, certainly winter storm watches and warnings where it's a snowfall event and then the risk of freezing rain into the Ottawa Valley in northeastern Ontario. But this special weather statement in southwestern Ontario has to do with the rainfall amounts, 15 to 30 millimeters, kind of just over that one area, and that's why flooding a concern through there. It's lighter shower activity through the GTA tonight and early tomorrow, and then we'll be seeing the cloud cover kind of hanging in there and holding on. So we'll be watching that before that setup into Wednesday. You can see this is Tuesday night, some of that very dramatic weather headed towards the Great Lakes. Tonight's low 4 degrees. By tomorrow afternoon, drying out crisp, but 9 degrees for the high. Not quite as warm as today.
All right. Thanks, Colette. Now to a CBC Toronto investigation that is certainly catching a lot of attention today. The Toronto Police Service has a licensed bar at its headquarters, and we've uncovered a police superintendent swiped into that fully stocked lounge just hours before getting into a car crash. Ryan Patrick Jones now with more on the high-ranking officer who was demoted today and the larger question of whether a bar should be at the police headquarters at all.
As a Toronto police superintendent, Riaz Hussein once led disciplinary hearings. Today, he faced one, pleading guilty to misconduct. Last year, he crashed his unmarked police SUV and was criminally convicted for having a blood alcohol level over the legal limit. A CBC News investigation has revealed 3 hours before the crash, Hussein's pass card swiped into a private licensed lounge at Toronto Police headquarters. It's unclear what the officer did inside the room, but the fact that the bar exists is now raising questions.
I'm absolutely astounded they've got a bar in this government building. It's just another sign of police impunity. They think they can get away with anything.
The former chair of the Toronto Police Services Board also has concerns.
We need to discuss whether it is appropriate in this day and age when there's so much concern about impaired driving, accidents, loss of lives, etc. Whether, as an example to the community, the police should not rethink the propriety of having a bar.
Neither Hussein nor his lawyer commented after today's hearing. But this injury lawyer says the police bar could leave the force open to liability.
In personal injury matters, you always look to make sure you include in the lawsuit any potential party who could be responsible. And that would be the offending driver who may have been intoxicated. And you would likely sue the establishment where the person was drinking.
While Toronto police say the lounge complies with all regulations, the force is not talking about whether the bar should remain, and there was no mention of it at today's disciplinary hearing. At that hearing, Hussein was demoted from superintendent to inspector for 1 year. Ryan Patrick Jones.
Hey there, welcome back. A protest will be held outside Marco Mendicino's Toronto office tomorrow after 8 bodies were pulled from the St. Lawrence River last week. Members of the Migrant Workers Alliance for Change are calling on the public safety minister to ensure better protection for migrants. Today, we're learning more about one of the families that died and their connection to Toronto.
They're a young family that walked in and wanting to baptize their children. And of course, we received them gladly.
Members of this Romanian Orthodox church in Scarborough are mourning the young family. 28-year-old Florin Iordache, his wife, and 2 infant children died while trying to cross from Quebec into the U.S. Family has told CBC News they were from Romania and had been living in Toronto for about a year and a half. Documents show Iordache had applied to stay in the country but had been denied. And the whole world will be locked on what happens tomorrow at a New York court as former U.S. President Donald Trump shows up for his arraignment. All right, so he got to New York this afternoon and will spend the night at his Trump Tower residence before turning himself into authorities tomorrow. Security is tight already around his New York home and at the Manhattan courthouse. The former president is facing multiple charges connected to a six-figure payment made to porn actress Stormy Daniels in 2016, allegedly to keep her from speaking about an affair with Trump during the 2016 presidential election campaign. Trump denies the affair and any wrongdoing. The 76-year-old is the first former or sitting U.S. president to be charged with a crime. And major space news for Canada out of Houston, Texas today. London, Ontario's Jeremy Hansen will join 3 American astronauts for a lunar flyby next year. Nicole Martellero has more on NASA's first moon crew in 50 years and the Canuck connection.
Ladies and gentlemen, your Artemis II crew.
What an exciting day here in Houston. The feeling was electric at Ellington Field. You know, even before the official announcement of the astronauts, you could see Jeremy Hansen smiling among all those astronauts ear to ear. So it was a little bit of a giveaway, but also, you know, it doesn't come as much of a surprise because Jeremy was recruited at the same time as David Saint-Jacques in 2009, and he's been training extensively ever since then. It kind of felt like it was his time. So here's actually what he had to say about the announcement and what it means for Canada.
For decades now, literally thousands upon thousands of Canadians have risen to that challenge, working together under a vision to take step by step, and all of those have added up to this moment where a Canadian is going to the moon with our international partnership, and it is glorious.
As he said, we have been leaders in the industry, in science and space. It's funny because not a lot of Canadians know that. We've had instruments on Martian rovers. We've had an instrument that's gone into the asteroid belt. And of course, the Canadarm, the iconic Canadarm. And Canadarm3 will be part of the Lunar Gateway, which is the first space station that will orbit the moon. And it will serve as a jumping off point for them going to the moon and to Mars. It's basically showing that NASA trusts Canada and our achievements. And I also want to say that it was really nice to see the support from all the astronauts for Jeremy, and especially his Canadian colleagues. I mean, clearly really thrilled about this historic announcement for Canada. Nicole Martellero, CBC News, Houston.
What a fantastic story there. And looking at our skies tonight, quite a beautiful night. Rain is set to move in, though, after what we saw today, which was a beautiful spring day. We'll take a look at what's in store for the rest of this week after the break. But first, couldn't leave without showing you this one. You love dogs as much as we do? Maybe you should take a trip to this museum in Athens. Visitors are being encouraged to bring along their four-legged friends to take in the latest exhibits. The original idea was to promote adoptions from local charity or local shelters to mark World Stray Animal Day tomorrow. Pooches and their humans were free to wander about and view the works of their favorite artists. It has been such a success, the museum has adopted a pet-friendly policy permanently. All right, stay with us. We're coming right back. Well, if you're into sun and overall dry weather, I hope you liked today. Let's get back to Colette now for a look at the long-range forecast, and Colette, rain certainly pulling double duty in the days ahead.
Yeah, Chris, we've got some active weather to get through here over the next few days. The nice thing about it is the setup towards the weekend is looking pretty positive for the long weekend. Of course, I probably don't need to remind anyone of that. Rain showers, though, as we head not just through tonight into tomorrow morning. In the afternoon, our temperature's not as mild as today. A lot of cloud cover hanging in, but it should be drier tomorrow afternoon. A few sunny breaks possible. And I just want everyone to be aware, the heads up for Wednesday, wet and mild, and perhaps wild as well, because we do have the risk of embedded thunderstorms and potentially some severe weather into southwestern Ontario, but maybe even into the GTA. And just looking at some of the concerns we've had around Chatham-Kent for flooding, but you're seeing other areas where some of this heavy rain is just in a band kind of right across southwestern Ontario there around Sarnia through London, St. Thomas. We could see some additional rainfall there. So this is through to tomorrow morning. Yes, still some wet roads for the morning commute into the city, and then cloudy into the afternoon. Could get sunny breaks towards the Golden Horseshoe, but a better chance of it into southwestern Ontario and getting some of that coming through. Then this next system moves in. So Wednesday, it's going to be off and on rain. So in the morning hours, we have that batch that moves through. There are breaks. Then the next round comes through, and the cold front comes later in the day. And it's along that we're likely to see the strongest storms because of that contrast we'll really be seeing in the temperatures, some upper level support that will be there for those storms on Wednesday as well. This is not even taking Wednesday into consideration, just looking at tonight into tomorrow and looking at some of those heavier amounts where we have that special weather statement. Certainly up to 40 millimeters, yes, but it could go even beyond that as we're looking towards Wednesday. I just added Wednesday on there for you. All right, overnight tonight, the overnight lows certainly on the mild side. I know we had some very heavenly temperatures today. Tomorrow, it's not that much above seasonal. We're kind of closer to our seasonal numbers for our daytime highs. So for Toronto, that puts us back at 9 degrees. And then for Wednesday, some windy conditions, the risk of active weather at least mid-teens, and perhaps into the Windsor area could be 20 degrees or warmer. And then as we get past that front and past that active weather, things looking good towards that weekend.
Taking that heavenly warmth anytime we can. Thanks, Colette. And finally tonight, meet the newest arrival at Ripley's Aquarium, Skuna. She is an endangered green sea turtle and has been living at the Vancouver Aquarium since 2005. Skuna is named after Schooner's Pass in British Columbia, where she was found in cold shock and unable to find her way back to her natural range. Ever since then, she has been helping educate aquarium visitors as an ambassador for her species, and she weighs a whopping 286 pounds. Skuna arrived in Toronto last week, and she's said to be settling into her new home very well. Welcome to our city, Skuna. And that is our show for you tonight. Thank you so much for watching. Maribel Tarouk has you covered tomorrow at 6, and I'll see you back here tomorrow night at 11. Have a great night, everyone.